Well, hello. Today's episode is about cactuses. Cacti. Okay, wait, is it cactus? Cactuses? Cacti?
Well, plural's cacti.
Cacti, okay.
Just think of a really ugly tie.
Alright. The reason we decided to make this episode about cacti is because I was actually given one. And I have no idea what to do with it. It's very pretty.
That's what your mum said.
Can you help us, please?
Sure.
It's a cactus.
No.
Very nice.
Just not.
No.
That's a type of from the aloe family.
Right.
But
so
it's
not
from
a
the
cactus.
it's from the same family that cacti belong to, which is a succulent.
Right. So I
Well,
got
in
screwed
general.
when they give us a.
Yeah, that wasn't a cactus. So that's the number one. That isn't a cactus. This is a cactus,
Right.
and this is a sort
Right.
of
So
thing.
this one has no thorns. Basically.
Yeah, that in a very general. On a very general.
This one has thorns.
Point. The cactus, you want to really do it simplistically. They have thorns.
Okay.
Not
Fair
all
enough.
things have thorns are cacti, but all cacti have thorns,
All cacti have thorns.
pretty much.
And all these right here.
All these are cacti.
Well, I want to know first of all the most important thing, which is the watering thing, because I understand that cacti, live in the deserts, so you never have to water them, or you do have to water them.
You do have to water them, but they're drought tolerant, and the most common reason why you might kill cactus that you keep it as a houseplant is from overwatering it. They have water seldomly. They dry out between waterings, in the nature in the desert and whatnot. In terms of what you asked me, which is the watering, you want to water this infrequently, and the main bit is you want to make sure it's dry between waterings. So
All right, so you got to wait for it to dry.
you gotta wait for it to dry. So that's quite easy. Normally it's like
Right.
dip your finger in and do all this sort of stuff. Talking about gardening,
Right.
yeah. But in this case, it's quite easy to tell when something's bone dry, isn't it? It's just when it's dry, you water it. If you give it too much water, it'll start just going mushy and yucky, and it'll die. Okay. If you give it not enough water, so you think, oh, maybe I left it too long, it becomes very obvious because it starts shriveling up, and all the moisture from within the structure starts getting absorbed. I have one here that I had in the windowsill I'd forgotten about. I hadn't watered for like 3 months. So this is the same variety as that. And again, I repeat, this is not a cactus, but it's the same idea. But as you can see, it's just completely shriveled up and it's gone darker. And it's still alive.
That's the lack of water, right?
That's like water.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you see? So the root systems
Killed
are
the poor thing.
the root systems are very, very basic generally, at least
yeah.
certainly on a house plant. But it becomes obvious when you don't water it. You're better off ignoring it. And in the winter months where it's cool, where it's not so hot, you look at that rule of thumb, once a month max. If you water right out, you can even go
Once a
quite
month,
easily.
right.
You could go through the whole winter not watering it at all in a
that's-
typical household.
Regardless of the size, or
Well,
basically as long as
yeah, it's prickly.
so as long as it's dry, we're cool. So if like
Yeah.
this one, for instance, it's
Yeah, it's dry, so you can water
dry,
it.
so I can water it.
Yeah, so the
And you water it normal, like just
well, okay, you can, yeah. You water it till it's wet, but the main thing is you don't want water to stay in the pot. And what happens is most of these fancy ones that you get given, including this nice little, is that pussycat?
it's a pussycat, yes.
Including this nice little pussycat one, is that they don't have drainage because people understandably don't want water leaking all over the furniture. It's for an house. So what happens is if you put a load of water into this now and just leave it there, if you put too much water in, it's gonna stay in there. It's not gonna drown. It's like,
I mean,
so it's gonna be a life vest. But the roots will rot. They rot real easily.
all right. Okay.
And then you'll see it because they'll just go all shriveled up and it'll go like all soft and mushy. And one day you're gonna go, oh, this looks a bit dodgy. You go bunk, and it'll basically what you saw before. So the way to do it is it's a bit trickier, to be honest with you, than if it had a hole in it. But that's just the reality. None of these have holes in it. So in this case, for example, on these ones,
You're right.
the way I water these I mean, you can use something like a syringe, for instance. You just want to make sure you don't put too much in there in relation to the space, the size of the pot. Yeah. So you could just kind of go like that and give it a little dose of water that way, and knowing that that's not a lot of water, so it's going to be fine. Or the other way is you can dunk it a little bit like you do with orchids. So this one has a little pot in a pot, so I could just stick it in there for a little while, or I could just stick it.
It sucks it through.
It'll just suck it up through the bottom. Yeah,
Right.
leave it in there for half an
that,
hour.
that pot has a little hole in, or
Because yes, that's the nursery pot, so I'll have a little hole in it.
nursery pot.
Okay, so you could do a little bit like you can do with orchids, where you just leave that's how I water all of these. I just put them all in a dish of water, leave them there for half an hour, come back later, make sure it drains off, and off it goes back in there, and sort it until the next time.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So as far as I'm concerned, that's all I need to know.
Well, where are you gonna put it, man? You put it in your cellar, where there's no lights.
Well, no, in the sitting room where it's nice and so people can see it, right? I
Well-
mean, these things don't. As far as I know, the reason why I got given this cactus, which isn't a cactus, is so that I don't have to worry about it except watering it once a month, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I can just leave it in my living
Yeah.
room next to my bed, next to the TV, wherever it looks nice.
Yeah. If it's
Right.
bright, you're all right.
So it has
Think
to
of it
be
that
bright.
way.
Of course. Yeah.
If it's bright,
makes sense.
you're all right. Yeah. Now, ding. Cacti generally like it bright and sunny. So if you have two windowsills to choose from, one of them is getting tons of sun during the day through the window. The other one gets naffle because it's north facing. Put it in the south facing, you'll get better.
Okay, so recapping, because we have break it down into like say tips for a novice like me. You have first watering
Watering,
once a month.
well, when it dries out, that's the main
When
thing.
it
Make
dries
sure it's
out,
bone
okay.
dry. You're more likely to. There's
number
much
one.
more flexibility there.
Tip number 2, drain hole. If it doesn't have a drain hole, you
Make sure you get rid of all the excess water.
excess water. Perfect.
Then location.
Tip number 3, location,
Yeah, as bright as possible.
as bright as possible.
Fertilizing. They do need fertilizing, like
Okay.
anything else. They eat. They need
They
nutrition.
food, yeah.
But just do that in the summer, in the growing season, in the summer months. Don't bother in the winter. In the winter, really, you kind of want to just leave this somewhere and ignore it as much as possible, unless it starts looking like this fella here that looks like it needs a drop of water. Okay.
Fair enough. Perfect.
And then if you were to just repot it because you got a bit bigger, or you got given it in a girly pot, then don't go big.
Thank you.
Don't go big. Go similar size to what you have already. Maybe 10% bigger if you want to.
Yeah.
But the only important bit there is because it needs to be good, well draining soil. Buy the little bags of what they call cactus mix, which
Right,
is
so
special.
specifically.
It's very
Okay.
gritty. It's
Alright,
kind of
okay.
sandy, so that the water goes right
Right.
through it. If you use the type of stuff you might have for your other plants, where it's like the more muddy, peaty, organic, it'll retain loads
It'll
and loads of
retain.
water, and then you
Makes
run the
sense as
risk
well.
of the roots.
Yeah,
roughing
so
up.
basically, again, you're trying to replicate the circumstances or the natural habitat of these things, right? Which is
Yeah.
dry, sunny.
Yeah, and
conditions.
infrequent water. But when they get the
Infrequent
water,
waters.
it gets water, they absorb as much as they can, but they also absorb water from like the humidity in the air and dew and stuff like that. So they don't
Right.
just rely on the roots. If we could trim it down to 2 tips, it's put it somewhere bright and wait for it to dry out before you water
you
it, and
water.
don't water it too much.
Perfect.
With that, you're set. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Okay. Perfect.
Do you feel like you can
Well, I think
now
I'm
look
ready.
after this non-cactus?
I think I'm ready once I get a real cactus. In the meantime, I'll practice with this succulent. So, thank you very much, sir.
We're here for you.
I have learned a lot today.
I haven't learned anything. I already knew all this shit. That's it.
Well, thank you very much. We shall see you in the next episode.
See you again. It'll be called succulents instead of cacti. It'll be exactly the same video with the same plant. Cheeky cheeky. Bye bye.